Hello again. We've just had delivery of the first batch of Hoyt Horizon Recurve risers. It's a new product from Hoyt this year. So we're going to unbox them now, give you my first impressions and see what you think of them. As is usual with Hoyt, the packaging is very good. Comes in a stiff cardboard box, and inside we have a sticker, some brief instructions on how to align the limbs, all of the Allen keys you need, a super rest, a stick-on rest, the usual key ring, and each riser comes in its own sleeve. And I've checked all of the other boxes as well, and everything's consistent between them. Now we've got here 4 of the 5 colour options that they offer. I brought out a blue, red, black and blackout. Blackout's new, they don't normally offer that on a recurve riser. They also offer white, however we've not had delivery of the whites, they're not available just yet, and we have no left-handers available yet as well, but they'll come in due course. These are the 4 colours. As I said, they do offer white, but we do not have a white one to show you. First up is the blue, and the blue and the red ones both seem to have a little slight metallic look to them, almost very fine silver speckle in the paint. It's the red, quite a dark red, which is quite nice. The black is your typical plain black, no metallic sparkle in that, just a straight gloss black finish on that one. And this is the new one, this is blackout, which is a powder coated type finish. It's coarser, certainly looks more hard wearing than the typical gloss ones. That's a matte finish, certainly texture on that, you could have a feel of that, and it's quite coarse, but it gives the impression of a hard wearing finish on that. It's also interesting to note that on painted risers sometimes they don't always clean out the holes when you try to put the accessories on. The paint's blocked up in the threads, but this is not the case with this. These are all cleaned out. The threads of the sight and the arrow rest mounting holes will mean that your bolt will screw in there easily. Got a stainless steel stabiliser bushing, always good to see that. Hoyt sticker there, and it's utilising the standard Hoyt grip, and this plastic grip for my fit is the best plastic grip on any recurve bow at the moment. And the nice thing about these grips is that they're interchangeable. They do wooden versions of it as well, but for a plastic grip this has got to be one of the best on the market, and it's a really comfortable grip. It's the same grip as you would have found on the Nexus, so that's a standard grip they've had before. I'm going to give you more of a close-up of the finish, which is quite a nice finish. It's the replacement bow for Hoyt's Eclipse that you might have heard of already. So it's Hoyt's entry-level riser. The finish isn't to the normal high standard of what you'd expect on the Formula bows or the GMX, which is to be expected. It's a much lower cost bow. So overall the finish is quite nice. There's a few little pit marks in the black one, and a slight orangey peel effect on the top there. But remember, this is a much lower cost bow, and it should be expected at this price point. You're not going to get the finish up to the standard of the higher end Hoyt bows. I do really like the blackout one. When I zoom in you can see the texture, and that looks like it's going to be a tough paint job. The usual grip as mentioned, and the pockets are interesting, or the lack of the pocket I would say. We've got a limb aligner, which we'll show you in more detail later. The limb bolts are anodised aluminium. They look like exactly the same component as that you'd find in the higher end Hoyt bows. So let's have a close look of the fit. We've got a clicker extension there as well. That's just a plain aluminium one. I thought it would be interesting to show you the Hoyt Horizon riser next to the Hoyt Excel risers, because it's quite obviously from the same family, a very similar design. The difference being that the Excel only ever came in 21 inches or in 23 inches, and the Horizon fills that gap for the longer draw length archers with a 25-inch riser. Now this is a more expensive riser when compared to the Excel model. However, there are 2 main differences apart from the length, and the first one being the limb alignment method on the front. So it gives you the ability, should you need to adjust this to make sure your limbs are perfectly square and you have a straight bow. The other difference is it has a clicker extension, and the better you get when you start to use a clicker on your bow, you'll find that most times you'll want the clicker somewhere in front of the riser, and without a clicker extension it'd be one to flick onto fresh air, so you have to use a particular type of clicker. This opens it up to use virtually any type of clicker that would fit on that. You can see here that the XL riser doesn't have a clicker extension. It does have a fitting for a clicker, and it doesn't have an adjustable dovetail, just a fixed machined one straight into the riser. When I was showing you the colours earlier, I want to show you now the difference between the two blues, the one of the XL, which is on the left hand side, and the one of the more expensive Horizon. And on the blue and the red versions, the Horizon has a nice looking paint job. I don't know whether the camera is going to pick it up, but there's certainly a little sparkle in the paint, which is the same on the red, but on the XL riser it's just the plain standard blue. With the black, and I would take a guess at the white just being also the solid colours, the blue and the reds are a better paint job, and they look prettier as well, which also makes a difference. I've got here a set of Hoyt ZR 330 limbs which would complement this riser well. As always with Hoyt, I've noticed that the fit is nice and smooth, straight in, really high quality fit on that. No need to push or work it to get it in. Nice positive fit. And that's another advantage on the lower cost risers when you have a aluminium insert for the dovetail, is that can be precision machined, and when you have the difference with a painted riser, you're going to have a build-up of paint on the inside. So sometimes that takes a bit of wear or bringing it in and out a few times to get that fit to be nice. With the drawback though is that once that starts to wear excessively over a period of time, period of years, there's nothing you can do to tighten that up. When you have a replaceable part like this in the Horizon, you can always get these separately and replace that as and when needed to maintain a really good tolerance fit for the lifetime of the bow. When it comes to weight, the XL risers and the Horizon risers are quite lightweight. The XL 21-inch riser is only 840 grams against the 23-inch XL at 886, and the Horizon obviously a bit heavier because it's a longer bow, weighing in at 1091, and for a 25-inch riser that is particularly lightweight. You compare that, I've got a GMX riser here which is 1296, which is pretty typical and average for a 25-inch aluminium risered bow. Just goes to show how much lighter the Horizon is. So if you're looking for a lightweight bow, this is pretty much as light as it's going to get on that size of riser. We've established the Horizon is a lightweight 25-inch riser, partly due to the large weight reliefs throughout the design of the bow, all of those holes in there, and partly down to the lack of a limb pocket, which starting to see a little bit more on bows these days, partly because it does save weight. It also saves cost and time in manufacture as well. However, if there is a negative as my preference, the limb is a little bit exposed for my tastes. I do like to see a limb hidden within a limb pocket. Gives a bit more protection. I do feel it looks better within a limb pocket, but there is no difference in function or performance whatsoever. And it says on the instruction leaflet that comes with the bow that most Hoyt riser and limb combinations do not require adjustment. So I've strung that up straight out of the box with the Hoyt ZR 330 limbs, and I've checked it for limb alignment and squareness, and it came out perfectly acceptable, perfectly straight. And I even checked the tiller difference from the top measurement to the bottom measurement, with the bottom measurement being 1/4 of an inch smaller than the top measurement, which is a perfect starting point for setting the bow up. So it did come out of the box factory set, which is a really good example of a nice quality bow. If you did need to change the tiller, there is a set screw quite deep down in that hole in the back of the riser there, and with the Allen key provided, you can undo that set screw a couple of turns and adjust the front tiller bolt as needed. It looks like this comes set in the mid position, so we have, let's see, to the maximum position, it's pretty much 2 full turns to get to the maximum position, 1, 2 to go back to the mid position, and the minimum position would likely to be another additional 2 turns to the minimum. It doesn't actually say what the minimum is in the instruction leaflet, but 4 full turns from the maximum down position is pretty typical, and you shouldn't have any problems in that position. Put that back to mid, 2 turns. Tighten that screw up. Okay. Now for the limb alignment, which is the adjustment of this dovetail slot left and right, you have to pay particular note to how this is tightened up. There are 2 small set screws, 1 on each side, and these set screws do not adjust the alignment. They're actually locking on top of another 2 set screws. So you have to remove both of those screws first. And it's unlikely you would need to do this, but should you have to do this, you align it in the conventional way as you would check the squareness of a bow. And if any adjustment needs making, it would be done on these dovetails. And below those 2 set screws, there is another 2 set screws that are not done up very tight. If you were to over tighten those screws, they press directly onto the aluminium dovetail slot here. So imagine those 2 screws being pressed against the aluminium. If you over tighten that, it could close up the fitting on the inside. So when you make these adjustments, you mustn't do them very tightly at all, just enough to move it, just snug. That's what it says in the instructions, is a snug adjustment. So you would undo one, for example, 1/2 a turn, and tighten up the other one, the equivalent 1/2 a turn, and then you just gently nip those screws up, not tight at all, and then the replacement screws go back on the top. Careful not to cross thread it as it goes in, because that's straight into the aluminium. And there we go. And that will nip on top of the other grub screws to stop those from moving or coming undone. And you can tighten these ones up quite firmly, because that's not going to depress the aluminium down on the front. But whatever you do, best to keep them only lightly done up and not over tightened. I hope that gives you an idea of what to expect from the Hoyt Horizon Recurve bow riser. It's another quality product from Hoyt, as we always come to expect. It was particularly nice to see that straight out of the box it didn't require any adjustment. The limb alignment was perfect and the tiller was perfect as well. It's going to make it very easy to set up for you. It's a lightweight bow. It's most definitely aimed at the intermediate level market or even the beginner level market. There's some stiff competition in that category, however the Hoyt Horizon is right in there with them. Just one to consider.